Lowcountry Money Talk. We're going to have a fantastic show for you today. Phil Bloyd joins us with Revolutionary Financial Group, and he always helps us really unpack all of the information that is going on through our retirement as we plan for and are in. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Jessa.
So this is a big topic today.
Sure.
Well, they really all are. So it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and more interesting. But you know, our viewers, of course, you all spend a lot of time saving and planning for retirement. And you know, this is a huge thing for us in life when we wind up then finally retiring. But what we don't always understand or think about is that taxes could wind up being one of our largest expenses. Now, you're a great myth buster, so we always appreciate that, right? Because sometimes we have a tendency to think that we're going to defer that taxable income now because maybe later in retirement we're going to spend less on those taxes. But you're saying maybe that's a myth and we need to reconsider. Walk us through that.
The tax man cometh.
Yes, he does. We know this,
So, you know, all of these years, and we talk about this a lot on our shows, but all these years we've put these taxes off and we've packed these deferred retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs, whatever it may be, IRAs, and under the assumption that, hey, you know, when I retire, I'll be in a lower tax bracket. Well, what if we were wrong about all of that?
That could be big trouble.
Could be real big trouble because I'm sitting on a mountain of money that hasn't been taxed, and the IRS believes that they have a say about how much of that money they want. And that's a little scary when we see a country that's approaching $32 trillion in debt. They constantly figure ways to get more tax money out of us. There's a debate in Congress almost daily on how they can raise our taxes.
Start trying to pay some of that down. I mean, that's really the only way to do it. So this could be a very unpleasant situation for retarees if you have deferred all that tax money.
So let's talk about the myth, and let's. There used to be a show, I think, Mythbusters.
I love that.
We'll do a little of that
today.
So Mythbusters. So you know, when we're growing a family and we're putting off these taxes, you know, we're not really saving tax money. We're just deferring the taxes till later.
We're kicking the can down the road.
Oh, Congress is really good at that. Right? So, you know, when we have all these little eaters around the house, these kids, you know, and we get some deductions and credits for them being around and stuff, believe me, you know, I've raised some, and you know, they cost a lot more than what you get in deductions. And I think you're dealing with that now.
I know all about the expensive snacks.
So, but we do get those deductions, and you know, maybe we have a 30-year mortgage, and you know, in the beginning of the mortgage, most of the money's going towards interest and not principal, and then as we go along, so we get to deduct the mortgage interest from our taxes, and you know, so now we're retired. So the kids have left, and they've come back with more. They've multiplied.
They've come back with
and
more.
They eat more, and they're but we don't get to deduct them anymore. But they're just around. So they came back and they multiplied and brought more with them. But anyway, so the kids are gone. We lose those deductions. We lose the mortgage interest deductions. So the other thing is, what if, you know, Congress increases our tax rates? So we have all this money bundled away, hoping that we stay in lower income tax rates. Hope is not a good plan.
No, it's not a good plan, and it's not, I don't think, real likely. Right? That's going to happen.
Probably not. If anything, I think the income taxes will be trending up. But we'll get more into that, because there's some more things that are these myths for retirement taxes that I'd like to talk about in the next segment.
And that sounds good. So taxes could be one of those things in retirement that could be a big surprise, or you can plan for it. To get a pen and paper during the break. Phil's got some great information for us together. We're going to learn together.
Take control.
That's right. We'll be right back. Back on Lowcountry Money Talk. And if you're just tuning in, this is actually a great time to tune in. It's a great episode. We're talking about, of course, taxes in retirement. Phil Bloyd with Revolutionary Financial Group has a lot to say on the topic. In fact, we're doing some myth busting today.
Yes, I like it.
Let's keep going. We've got some more myths to bust.
Sure.
So, you know, when we're working, we feel like we're already paying for Social Security, right? Who is this FICA taking all my money out of my check, right?
Right.
Well, we know what that goes to. So I think one thing that we assume going into retirement, at least I know I'm in this camp, is that I'm not going to have to then pay later for Social Security, but that might not be the case.
Right.
So walk us through that.
So a lot of times, Jessa, people are confused about taxation of Social Security. They're like, well, if I'm taking Social Security and I still work and I exceed a certain income, then, you know, Social Security is reduced or taken back or whatever. That's different. What I'm talking about is your monthly benefit that you're receiving. There's guidelines on how much of that can be taxable based upon your income.
Okay.
And one of those categories is it's based upon whether you're single or whether you're married filing joint.
Okay.
There's two different levels there. But when your Social Security is taxable, up to 50% or 85% may be taxable.
Okay.
And it's taxable as ordinary income.
Wow.
Okay, so we're talking about the myth of deferring, all of these taxes till later,
Right.
because we're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Well, were we taking into account when we were thinking about that the withdrawals from these deferred accounts are the leading cause of my Social Security being taxed?
Oh, because you have to count it as income, so
Right.
it's taxable, which could put you in a bracket that taxes then your Social Security.
If I'm receiving,
It all comes together.
if I'm receiving jointly like, $40,000 a year in Social Security income, and up to 85% of it's taxable, right? You can do the math on that, over 30-some thousand. And when that goes in, it's taxed as ordinary income at my highest income rate.
Right.
So if my highest income tax rate is 22%, then 85% of my Social Security will be taxed at 22%. Well, now I'm looking at this deferred money that I put away. Okay, remember it's deferred taxes.
Right. You're not avoiding them.
Not tax savings.
You're just doing it later.
And as I start taking those monies out of these deferred accounts, now my Social Security is taxable. So am I really in this lower bracket that I thought that I was creating years ago?
When you already mentioned you lost the deductions for kids,
Right.
and you may or may
Mortgage
not have a
interest, too.
spouse that is included in that. And let's talk about that a little bit too, if we have time.
Yeah.
About for those who don't have a spouse or no longer have a spouse, which of course can happen
Sure.
as you age.
Right. So let's say, I'm married 35 years so far, and I'm married, let's go another 20 years into that, Okay, so another 20 years into that. So I am producing a married filing joint tax return. I pass away, now my wife is considered single. So what happens to those single tax brackets?
It goes up.
They're higher.
Yeah.
I'm paying more taxes at lower income. So now my IRA will be transferred to my spouse. She still has to make withdrawals out of my IRA
Right.
and her own IRA. And then she takes the largest of the two Social Securities. She's probably paying just as much or more taxes, than what I was paying, because now it's considered she's considered single. There's no widow rate, so she's considered single.
Right.
And she's going to pay the single rate.
That's amazing. And all of these things that we don't necessarily plan for when we're working towards retirement.
Right.
So this is really important, because this is a good time to address for our viewers, how can you avoid this? How can you have a plan going into retirement where you're giving yourself the best possible tax picture and planning for that? So you actually have a report for this at Revolutionary Financial Group called the Revolutionary Wealth Review. I highly recommend doing this, because you are actually going to sit down with folks and show them these pitfalls. Where are you losing money in paying too much in taxes, or you're about to be, and how this can all affect you in the future, and actually plan for this. So you don't have to know all these. They can walk you through this. And the way that you do that is you call the office, you're going to talk to Rachel, she'll set you up. If you have $500,000 or more in investable assets, they can do this just complimentary and just at least give you a path and show you what you could be missing out on. So I think that's so important.
Right.
You know, there's more myths.
There's more coming.
Will you stay with us? We have more myth busting to do on Lowcountry Money Talk. Welcome back to the show. We have had a great first half. I'll recap it for you a little bit just in case you're just tuning in, but this is Lowcountry Money Talk. This is Phil Bloyd. Yes. He is with Revolutionary Financial Group, and we are walking our viewers through the ways in which you could potentially get surprised on tax
those
time
are bad surprises.
During retirement. You don't want that kind of surprise.
No.
So we're myth busting today, and Phil's helping us do that. Things we might think are true, finding out how easily it could not be true. We've covered already so far how our deductions can change as we move through life and into retirement, and we've talked a little bit about Social Security and how that could wind up being taxable for us, and of course what happens if you're a widow and how that all plays a role, which all works together. What we haven't discussed yet is inflation, and we're all talking about it, so we may as well talk about it now.
Sure.
So let's talk about how this could affect us in retirement.
Sure. Okay. So inflation, we've been here for what, year and a half, 2 years, I guess. You know, it seems like we're just stuck in a rut.
We are.
But when I'm retired, a lot of people will take the income out of the IRA when they get a hit or they need more money. They immediately go to that deferred account.
Yes.
So the problem with that is everything costs more. You know, we could say cost of living in there too, because cost of living has been going up. But anyway, so let's say I need some more money because I think the study came out and said American households were down $2,500 a year in income or something. So let's say I need another $2,500.
Right.
I go take it out of my IRA. How much do I have to take out of my IRA to get $2,500? More.
More than 20.
Because I got to pay taxes.
Yeah.
So if my taxes are 20%, I'm going to have to take more out, right?
Right. Okay.
So I'm going to take an extra maybe $2,800 or something. So I take $2,800 out of my IRA, which goes against my Social Security being taxed. So if I was at the lower rate of my Social Security being taxed, maybe that $2,500 puts 85% of my Social Security being taxed.
Right.
You get me on this stuff?
All of a sudden you've moved into a new bracket for Social Security
and maybe I was
tax.
in a 22 could put me in a 24 or vice versa or whatever.
Really just compounding the problem.
Compounding the problem. So I need more money because of inflation and cost of living. So I go take more out of my IRA. One other thing, what has been going on with the stock market over the last couple of years?
Oh, well, it's been all over the place for one, but mostly, yeah.
So last year, I think the S&P index was down a little under 20%, and the NASDAQ index, the techs, were down 35%, roughly.
Yeah.
So if I have this money invested long-term in equity positions, I'm going in and I'm taking $2,800 more out of something that has decreased in value.
Right.
So when the market recuperates,
they're missing that chunk.
I'm missing that to grow back because of inflation and taxes.
And we know the rule. We know that's not a myth. You're not supposed to sell low, right?
Right. I think my wife's license plate, which I help provide because it's a Marine Corps license plate, says buy low. And it's not the grocery store.
Not the
Okay, they went out of business down here. So it's like, oh, he's a manager at Buy Low. Okay, whatever. So anyway, that's going to hurt us that way. So that's really a big issue is with inflation because we're taking more out of these accounts. We're going to pay more in taxes. Could cost our Social Security to be taxed at a higher rate. So it's dragging us in many ways.
So this is so interesting to me because not planning for taxes properly before retirement can affect you kind of all across the board.
Yeah.
And how scary that is when you start adding here at all these places that you're spending more money in taxes.
Yeah.
I think it pays to have a plan.
Yes, it does.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. A couple more things to cover on taxes, and then also, you know, the importance of a plan. So please plan to stay with us for our final segment on the show.
That's the easy part.
That's the easy part. Just stay there. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back in. You love talking taxes, don't you? Well, that's what we're doing today on Lowcountry Money Talk. Actually, you love talking taxes because you like saving people money.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, and making people money. And
Save money is just as good as making money.
It's all good. Let's do both, right?
Yeah.
So Phil's been walking through how we could get caught really with surprising tax issues. The issues, of course, being higher taxes.
Sure.
So we're trying to avoid that. And you've been walking us through all these different ways in which we need to plan ahead so that we can avoid it. Let's discuss now, as we wrap up our show today, the income tax rates changing. They're due to sunset. I love this term because it sounds so much prettier than expire, right?
Or tax hike.
Or tax hike, right?
Nobody likes that.
Yeah, sunset sounds so beautiful. So talk to us about this and what's going to happen. What do we do about it?
This is a sunset we're not going to like. Okay. So basically, you know, to get tax legislation through Congress, usually these Congress people have to put an end date on it, or it has to expire at a certain date. So without their vote, it just goes back to the way it was, which is going to be a big tax hike for all of us. So we're good through tax year 2025, and then we sunset, and then if Congress doesn't do anything, which we talk about a lot, they're good at doing nothing. So we take a big rate hike in 2026. So now's the time, because when that expires, you're going to be in a higher tax situation, and you did no plans for that.
Right.
Made no plans at all.
I wasn't even thinking about this until you brought this to my attention.
It's really important. And, you know, the one thing people are too eagerly to take withdrawals out of their IRAs, and they forget that they may have other buckets like we speak of on this show.
Yeah.
So the capital gains bucket, now, they'll probably try to change that too, but for now, I saw someone recently that came to me, and they're really not using their tax harvesting in this capital gains bucket properly, and it costs them, you know, maybe $3,000 in taxes in 1 year.
Who wants to pay
what
an extra
can we do with
$3,000
extra bucks?
Yeah,
you know?
I've got a list.
You know, let's make sure that we know our tax buckets. Know how to improve our tax-free bucket. That's what we're going to talk about here a bit. But also, if we have that capital gains tax bucket, sometimes we can arrange that based upon what we buy or sell as far as equities go, or holdings, to where we can get money out of that capital gain bucket for like zero as far as the taxes go. In other words, if we have let's say an equity position that we lost in years ago, and we've been carrying forward those losses, we still have all those losses to use.
Right.
Well, you know, if you don't use those and you just go right to your IRA bucket, you're paying normal income tax. Could cost your Social Security tax, as we mentioned, to be higher. But if I take it out of if I use this tax harvesting properly, which I look at every November, should be an automatic thing, we can maybe get some income tax free. And we like tax.
Tax free.
I like that, you know, because we can offset the gains with the losses. If we just take money out of the IRA, it's going to be taxed dollar for dollar as ordinary income. Out of the capital gains bucket, you know, we may be able to offset those gains with losses and take money out of that bucket and not pay any.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to keep that in mind.
Sounds so good.
Well, the last thing I think we need to just follow up on is like, what do we do? We've got all this money in these deferred accounts. What can we do? And too many times people wait until they have a problem to develop, you know, a solution to the problem. So I try to front run that problem.
Right.
You know, some accountants may say, well, your taxes don't really look bad now. If we move some of this money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, then it's going to increase your taxes. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait, you know, till the hurricane's coming and I'm going to be up on my roof replacing shingles. I don't think so.
Right.
So now's the time, because we have the sunset going. Mm-hmm. You know, we've got a few more years, actually 3 more tax years that we can do some things. And then it expires and we don't know what the rates are going to be. But we know what they are now.
We know what they are now, and we know that the likelihood that they're going to go down is probably not great. So I just think it's so smart, all of this stuff that we've talked about today, but deferring taxes doesn't always make sense for all of the reasons that you outlined. If you'd like Phil and his team to take a look at your picture, they have a Revolutionary Wealth Review that you can schedule. You've already got all your ducks in a row from doing your taxes. Just bring it on in. They'll take a look at it. Rachel will get you scheduled if you call the office, and I think that's a smart thing to do, and it's a great time to do it.
Great time.
We hope to see you next time on Lowcountry Money Talk.
All right.
Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome. Good to see you again.
We'll see you next time.